3, the second paragraph, where it states move $10,000 for the utilities for the farmers market, that should be 1,000.
Oh,
Okay. All right. Any other corrections?
No, sir.
All right. Okay. All in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye.
aye.
But nobody made the motion yet.
Nobody made the motion yet? All
Not
right.
yet.
I'm trying to get through, y'all. Come
I
on.
thought I missed it.
I'll make a motion to pass the minutes as revised.
Second,
Yeah. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? And then all in favor, let me know by saying aye.
aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Move on to budget. The first item is consider resolution 2020-J.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2020-J. This is a resolution of the City of High Springs, Florida, determining the amount of and fixing the final rate of ad valorem taxation fiscal year 2020/2021 and providing for conflicts, severability, and effective date. I'd also, pursuant to our requirements under the TRIM Act, like to read in section 1 of this resolution. It provides that the final millage for fiscal year 2020-2021 is fixed at 5.8800 mils, which is 3.84% increase from the current rollback rate of 5.6628 mils. The appropriate motion would be to pass the resolution as read by title only.
Okay, thank you, sir. At this time, we have discussion. Any questions, any comments? Y'all quiet.
I move
This-
that we approve resolution 2020-3 as read.
It's J, 2020-J.
Thank you, you're right.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any citizens request, any citizens comments?
Mr. Mayor, we'll ask if anyone would like to speak to please use the raise your hand function within Zoom. And there are no hands raised this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, and this is the second and final reading, Jenny?
There's only one reading on the resolution, but this is the third and final resolution setting the millage.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right. And any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor James.
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lavin.
Yes,
Okay, motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 2, consider ordinance 2020-10.
Mr. Mayor, ordinance number 2020-10, an ordinance adopting the 2020/2021 fiscal year budget of the City of High Springs, Florida, providing an effective date. This is our second reading, so the appropriate motion would be to pass the ordinance as read by title only upon its second reading.
All right, thank you. Okay, at this time, discussion, consideration of passes ordinance 2020-10 on the second and final reading.
Can I, before we start, can I just make a note, let y'all know of a couple changes?
Yes, ma'am.
The meter reader currently is sitting in the finance services. That is to be moved to license and billing. So that will be under license and billing. And then the auditor asked that when we do the transfer from the water fund, it is 2 separate lines. So that amount will just be broken down, the original amount that was there, and then just for the meter reader. And those are the only ones.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
And I appreciate it, Jennifer. Thank you. The only question, Mr. Mayor, and then I guess maybe we could ask this of the city manager. And I know within the job description that the maintenance of the meters or the fixing of the meters has been taken out of the job description. I would really like us to make sure, my concern is that we've got the water meter doing this, he has to replace a meter. The work order, it has to go to the water department. I would just appreciate if we just really watch that process to make sure there's not a delay in that process going from one to the other. I agree with it being out. I just want to make sure that the process is fluid, that when the meter reader finds a problem or so forth, the process of subjecting the work order and the water department then completing the process. So if we could just follow that, I feel really good about it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Manager, you have something to say?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I just so noted that the day-to-day operation will make sure there's a smooth transition. If it's needed assistance, we will provide that for be no interruption in service for the citizens.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Do you want a motion, Mayor Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion to accept the budget. I think it's 2020-10.
Yes.
I second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. At this time, any citizens requests, any citizen comments?
Mr. Mayor, again, we'll ask if any citizens would like to speak to please use the raise your hand function within Zoom. No hands raised this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right. Ms. Jenny?
Vice Mayor James,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lavin,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. All right, moving on to citizen requests and comments. For issues not on the agenda, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, again, if anyone would like to speak, we ask that you please use the raise your hand function on Zoom and we will bring you in to speak to the commission. And there are no hands at this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Item number 1, consider approval of agreement with North Central Florida Regional Planning Council for planning service.
Excuse
me?
So this is the new contract from North Florida Planning Council. You should have received 2. The second one that you received this evening is the correct version of that. It's a year-long contract. The contractual agreement is for $10,000 for the year. That is their maxed out service. We have confirmed that with them. So we're asking that this contract be renewed. The current contract expires October 1st.
Thanks, sir. Any questions? Commissioners?
Quick question, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, can you just real quickly for the 10 grand, tell us what we get for it? I don't have the updated form. Could you just, so the people who are listening, they'll know exactly what that 10,000 basically does?
Yeah, it's gonna provide our updated planning services, updates on zoning maps, there's a whole list of things. I'm trying to pull it up in my deal. I lost it somewhere along the line trying to get this up and running. Give me 1 second. But it's going to cover all our planning needs with our permit tech, new subdivisions, zoning map updates, help interpret the comp plan, the land development code, things along those lines.
Okay. I just want to make sure people are understanding what we're getting for the dollar amount. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Bruce, could you also answer for me? I'm sorry, I don't have the new one either. So the 10,000 per year, that helps us with all those large scale things, but are we still contracting with the independent planner for the direct questions, or does the planning council do that for us?
So currently the planning council is doing all of that for us. We budgeted more than what we needed in that line item.
Okay.
We were expecting it to come up more than what it did. So we thought there was another tier to the program. Come to find out we're maxed out. So that $10,000 will cover it, which will leave another $15,000 in that budget. We do have Kimley Horn available if we need them. So we could use that money for some of the large scale developments that are coming in, or the larger developments if we need to. But we should be okay using the planning council as is for right now, but we'll be able to handle any unforeseen issues if that happens.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All righty.
I'll make a motion for us to accept the contract for the services with the planning council.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 All disapprove, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item number 2 on the new business, consider approving the collective bargaining agreement with North Central Florida Police Benevolent Association for October the 1st, 2020 through September the 30th, 2023. Chief Shepherd, any comments?
I do not have any comments other than myself and the committee review the agreement and support the established points that have been agreed upon.
I have a question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
On the vote ratification tally sheet, there's a number of eligible voters of 15, but only 7 ballots were cast. That's less than half of the, well, that's about half of the 15. What happened to the others?
It's actually customary. I guess some people don't come and vote. They do advertise it through the PBA. That's PBA that does it, and totally, through them, they'll give them a date and they usually come and vote. But that's actually customary with every time there's been a vote. Not 100% voting members come and vote.
Okay. So 7 from 15 is okay, then it can be ratified with that?
Yes, all you need is a majority.
Okay. Thank you.
7, you had 15 and you had 7 votes?
Correct.
That's 8 left over.
7's not the majority.
7-0. That's the majority.
I looked at that same thing when I saw it, those numbers. I say, mind, these numbers are low. But I saw the same thing.
I guess 7 is greater than 0.
It is. That's for sure.
All right, any other questions on this agreement?
Any major change, Chief? Just something, I saw something on a purchase or something that you got additional money for something. Anything of a major difference in here that pops out?
No, sir. There's no major change. Obviously, we took in consideration the less funds and revenue that's coming to the city, not to afford substantial increases in raise or anything of that nature. So.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Just to piggyback off that, the union was very considerate and understanding based on the pandemic and economic issues that are going on. And they were very complimentary, and they said they're willing to revisit sometime in 2021.
Okay, thank you, sir.
That's nice.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the agreement? All right, at this time, entertain a motion.
I move that we approve, let me get my light here, collective bargaining agreement with North Central Florida Police Benevolent Association for October 1, 2020 through September 30, 2023. So the
Yes,
3-year
it's for 3
contract, okay,
years.
okay. Just wanted to make sure I was correct.
Yes,
Yes.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 3, discussed extending the selection of the city manager position to after the city election. My question is why?
Well,
I agree with
well,
you,
it was
Mayor.
asked of me,
Excuse me?
it was asked of me, it is so close to the election, why perhaps we're going to have 1, perhaps 2 new commissioners that won't have a voice in this. And so I was asked about it. I told them I would bring it to the commission.
Yeah. Well, whoever that person, our persons may be, they'll be in, if I'm correct, and they'll be in the part of the last phase of the final phase of it, selecting the city manager himself or her.
No, I believe it would be actually, the interviews will be on October the 27th. So we would probably offer them, you could either at that time, or after you do the interviews, you can hold a meeting, decide who you rank them, and then they would be hired at the reorganization meeting.
Yes.
But they would be ranked by the present commission.
Right.
Mhm.
And
You
I-
seem very intent on that, Mr. Mayor. Do you have a reason for that?
Well, I think that's the purpose. That's our job right now, to select a city manager. But whoever that person or persons are, they'll be able to select out of the finals. Am I correct?
All right.
Mhm.
Mayor, I think our time frame is that we want to try to get someone in that position, knowing that Mr. DeCoursey is leaving by November 30th, and having the opportunity to give someone the time to give notice to their employer. I think that postponing it would just cause harm to the city not to have someone there to do that position. So I am not in favor of that. I think we have some candidates in the applications we've already received, and I think the position is open until October 8th, if I'm correct. So I'm not in favor of pushing it back. I think that, the city manager is a job that needs to be filled as soon as possible, and we, do have some candidates that would be potential in the batch already. Thank you.
I would agree. I understand the deal, but I think the people who are on the commission now, just like the mayor said previously, they've earned the right to choose it. They're here. They know the process. They know the whole what's required. They've worked with the city manager for 3 years minimum. So I would not be for extending it. I would want to keep it where it is and keep a constant message out there that I think our intent is we want to get this thing done. And if you read them, some of them are 30 days. If you looked at the people, 30 days notice is all they need.
Mhm.
We get this thing done, you could maybe get somebody in here sooner than anticipated, to where there's not that much lag between Mr. DeCoursey leaving. So I would prefer to keep it as the dates that are there now.
And I'm in total agreement too. I see no need to change it from the way it is. We've already scheduled it. We've already started the process. And in my mind, there's no reason why we need to change it. Plus, if we follow the schedule that they have here, we're going to have 3 meetings in November. And I don't know who schedule that will interfere with, but I say leave the schedule as is.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Jenny a question, please?
Yes.
Jenny, when we do the Zoom, are the candidates, would they have access to just view and watch? Or is that something that could happen? We're doing the interviews, but is there something where they could have it where they couldn't comment, they couldn't say anything, but they would be able to view our
Yes.
process, so they would have an idea of the qualities of the individual, so when it came time?
Yes, sir. They could view it just like they're doing commission meetings now. They're in a different area and they have to be invited over to be a panelist so they can speak. So they can.
Well, I would highly advise all of them, the 6 of them that are out there when the process gets there, is to contact you and just make sure they got the Zoom address, the deal, so they could participate and at least watch the process.
They will probably be all in one evening, so then
Okay.
they would all be sent the information.
Okay. At least that way they would be aware and they would be able to see the interviews and be able to see the candidates. Thank you.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. But again, they won't be able to ask questions. They don't have no vote or anything else. They'll just be able to
Right.
Observe.
But if it went beyond, Mr. Mayor, for some
Then
reason, if it went beyond, they would be familiar with the candidates and they would have heard exactly what we heard.
Yes.
I know in the past when we had meetings in person, we would actually ask the other candidates to stay out in the
Right.
lobby for each interview.
Right.
Okay.
Is there a way to do that through Zoom?
I'll have to ask Kevin, do you know of a way to make it where they can't hear?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. I know that you can have password protected meetings, so not just anyone can jump on, but whether people can be, I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
So I'm quite sure probably time consuming. I don't know. So we always go over. Well, I guess that would be kind of, if each person had their own allotted time and they had, I don't know, I'm thinking here, Kevin.
One alternative, Mr. Mayor, would be to have separate meetings for each person.
Yeah.
And in 15 or 20-minute increments. I am going to look up to see if there is a way specifically to allow people in and they can't hear or see anything while they wait. But that is another alternative if we need to do that.
Yeah.
I would prefer, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I would prefer that we keep the other candidates in a block where they can't hear or see.
Yes.
I agree. I think that gives an unfair advantage to the ones afterwards if they already know what the questions are or, know what kind of answers were given. So if we have to do separate little meetings, that I think we need to do that just to equal the playing field for the candidates.
Mr. Mayor, didn't we do something like that on the last search, except it was conference calls? It wasn't Zoom meetings, but each of them had a separate conference call.
That's
And
right.
the others weren't on the call. So I would think, as Kevin said, you could set each of them up with a separate invite, but a half an hour between or 45-minute in between, and then have a separate invite for the next one. So therefore only that person has it and the commissioners have that invite. And so each one would be a separate one, similar to our conference call. So I think that'll work.
Okay. So in that case, Jenny or Kevin, so each one have to have their own ID number?
That's no problem. We can set that up and send to them.
Okay.
And
I feel more comfortable doing that because anybody got the ID number, they can come in.
And then if we do it that way, Mayor, then it wouldn't be televised or streamed immediately to the public because anybody could get on and see it. Is that correct?
We have to share with YouTube for that, don't you, Jenny?
Yes, you have to share to YouTube and to Facebook for it. The only thing, and I have to ask Rich on this, is when you're together, you're supposed to have public meetings. On the interviews, would the public be allowed to attend this? They usually have been.
Yeah.
So then if you block the others out, then you block the
Public.
public out also.
Right, that's my concern.
Hmm.
So we'll have to look into a way to see if we can figure it out. I'm not sure there is a way that you could let the public in and not certain people.
Is there could we look at perhaps meeting at City Hall for that specific time where we would interview individually?
You could, and then we could have them, you mean have them come here or actually have
Right.
them on Zoom?
Well, we could have them on Zoom, but I guess we're trying to find a way, because even if they have their own ID, if they have Zoom capabilities or YouTube, they could look at it on another device. So I'm wondering if perhaps that might be the way to do it, is to have them come as well as us. And I guess you could Zoom it out to the public. Would that work?
Jenny, I'm going to be out of the area that night and plan to do the meeting by Zoom, just so you know that, okay?
Well, what we can do is Kevin and I can work on this and figure out a way and then send an email out and let you know the best way to do it and see if that works.
Okay.
Jenny, make sure, not to whatever, make sure you just touch base with those legal guys, because you were correct as far as the deal. I hate to ever reference Rich. I mean, I hate to ever go that deal. But we would want to make sure nobody could come back within our selection. They
Right.
were not part of the process and could come back. How was that, Rich? Was that better?
I love it. You're doing a great job.
Jenny, I guess the meetings in the past, when we did interviews, we came into in the commissioner chamber. So that means
Yes.
it was open to the public.
It was
Right.
open to the
People
public,
didn't
but
show
each
up.
candidate
Yeah,
had to stay in the hall.
right. I mean, for citizens.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the citizens were in the hall, but the other guys were out in the hallway, so they couldn't hear any of the questions.
Right. Yeah. And I know the candidates couldn't hear the question. But my
Right.
question
Right.
is, during those interviews, the public was allowed to come into the chamber.
Right.
Am I correct, Jenny? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, they have in the past, yes, sir.
Okay.
They sat in the audience, Mr. Mayor, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have many, but. Okay. All right, Kevin. And Jenny, y'all put your heads together and come up with
Okay.
That's legal, Rich.
There was a
Yeah,
Yeah, there
chat,
was a question.
A question?
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor. in the
Ross
chat
Ambrose
box.
had a question.
Who?
Ross Ambrose.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
What's in the chat?
It's a chat. Oh, let me.
I can read it out loud for the record. It says, can you say what the process will be? Will public have a chance to meet finalists? Will the candidates be coming to visit the city to experience our community? That's from Mr. Ambrose.
Well, I know in the past when we narrowed it down to what, 3, Jenny?
Yes,
We
sir.
We invited them to the city.
Mhm.
And then that'd be a time also that's when we do what is COVID-19? Yeah, good question. When it come down to the final 3, how we gonna do it?
Yeah, we're limited on how we can have a meet and greet type
Yeah,
we have done in the past.
true.
Mr. Mayor, it could be that they could come early on that date and make a tour themselves rather than have any of us interface with them. A lot of them are local
Yeah.
that we have, so they may be familiar with High Springs anyway. So
That's
that
what-
may be an option too.
But see, part of his question is, he said, can you say what the process will be? would public have a chance to meet the finalists? So we don't want them,
No.
we can't, help me out, Chief, where you at? Chief Gillingham? So we can't have that many people in a room, am I correct? If things still be the same by that time.
Yeah, it's going to limit the amount of people we have. Like, for instance, just an example, the candidate forum, we're going to use the farmers market pavilion and do it outside so we can socially distance and do it that way. We could possibly do something there if that's the direction y'all would like to go.
I don't know.
That may be at least worth at least looking into, Mr. Mayor. Have somebody look at it to where you could go there and maybe position it out. It just depends on the sentiment, I think, of the group. But being outdoors, that may be the only real option to do it.
I mean, it does have lights. It does have fans. It's got plenty of power. We were out there today. We looked at it for the candidate forum. We think we got it figured out for that. That's going to be October 20th. So that may be a good barometer just to look at if we could do it for the city manager forum if we wanted to.
And Jenny, where you asked what the process is, I think that's the dates that you have basically. Mr. Ambrose or any of the other, I would just say get with Jenny and she can just show you because it's written down what the dates are. So there is a process and she has the dates and what's going on. So if any of you out there need that, just get with Jenny. She will provide it to you.
It's also posted on our website in the agenda packet.
Right.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
So will we be having a list of names that we're going to collectively put together by the next meeting? Is that going to be our cutoff date? The next meeting will be after our cutoff date, won't it?
It's actually the 8th, and that's when's our next meeting? That's our next meeting. So at that night, you will have a complete list. As it is, I've already given you the list and copies of everybody. So you have everybody so far, except somebody came in today, and I'll send that to you. So far, we've only had 11.
Okay.
But you'll have a complete list then.
And what's the closing date?
The 8th, October the 8th.
Okay, I'm quite sure some more gonna come in between now and then.
And I suppose we'll go through our regular, even though it's virtual, we'll go through our regular, what we've done in the past is everybody give the list of 3 that they have and see how many we match, all 5 of us at that point, and then go from there.
Well, they have through the 8th to send in their application, and then you begin the screening, and then that goes through the 12th. And well, actually it could go further, but then the top 5 finalists are selected on October 22nd at the next meeting, and then the interviews are conducted on the 27th.
But we will have a meeting where we talk collectively about the 11 or 12 or however many we have.
Well, you can do the interview schedule after you finish the interviews, then you can start going over them and discuss it, because that'll be a meeting that you can do that.
Okay.
If you would like to have one prior to that, we could
No,
always call.
I remember that when we talked about all of them, we collectively got together and decided how many of us agreed on any one candidate, and then we would discuss and come down with the 3 at that point so that we could then have the interviews. So that's what I was referencing.
Right.
We have to be able to come together. I mean, yeah, we have to come together and make decisions before we invite anybody to come for interviews.
Oh, right. You can either do that at the 22nd, or if you want to do it prior to the 22nd, you can hold a workshop if you'd like to discuss them, to come up with the 5.
I don't have a problem with either one of those. I just think that we will probably need to discuss it to come up with the 3.
I think we need to discuss it before the 22nd, because if we're going to invite someone to come for an interview, giving them just 5 days isn't really a lot of time, right? Because we'd be doing that on the 22nd, and the 27th, we want them to be available for interviews in person and or by Zoom.
Well, when the time was originally set, the 5 days would have been fine because we were going to hold them by Zoom. So
Okay.
that's giving them plenty of time. But if they're going to come in person, it may be a little different.
Well, once you make that decision, once whomever makes that decision, whether they're going to be in person or by Zoom, that will make a big difference too.
Mhm.
I just wanted to make sure there was time there for us to discuss all of the applicants and if everybody, to get everybody agree on the three.
Right. Don't blame you.
Okay,
So,
any other discussion?
Not to belabor the point, Mr. Mayor and Jenny and Kevin and so forth. So on the 8th, when we have the meeting, we could make the decision on the 8th because we will have a list of all the candidates now. We've got them except for 2, I think. So at the meeting on the 8th, one of the discussion points could be, do we want to have a workshop to where we talk it out and everything like this, or if everybody's comfortable, then we could make it on the 8th. We could schedule a workshop or put it off until the 22nd.
Most
I'm good with the 8th.
Yeah. So if we could just make sure for the 8th, put an agenda item on there just to discuss, like Linda was saying, just to go ahead and discuss which deal so it's solid and come prepared for the 8th, just in case, just to have an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other discussions on the city manager position? Candidates? All right, we're moving on then.
Yeah.
City attorney report. Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things to report on following some discussions at our last meeting. First of all, there was the resolution, you might recall, that the City Commission passed with respect to denouncing the proposed county charter referendum. And the city attorney was asked to look into what are some additional measures that the city might be able to take in order to express some opposition to that referendum. We have done a little research on this item. I do think that the city does have some options. And I'll run us through those very, very briefly, but if the commission expresses an interest, then we will go ahead and move forward, maybe getting together with our city clerk and city manager to see what we might be able to do. So basically what we looked into is the extent to which the municipality can put together informational materials in the form of either posts on a website, writing an article to the Alachua Today, or potentially handing out flyers. And then the second thing we looked at was, can the commissioners personally advocate against the referendum? And basically what we found through a couple attorney general opinions, relying on some fairly dated but still good Florida Supreme Court law back from the 1960s, we actually can pursue any combination of those measures, except that, as we all recognized in our last meeting, we need to be careful about expending public funds. But if we did get into a situation where we were potentially expending public funds, then what we would need to do at that point, I don't know that this is what the commission was actually suggesting, but what we would have to do is perhaps determine by ordinance expressing some findings as to the purpose of the expenditure and the benefits that would accrue to the city. So I don't know that that was necessarily the notion from the commission, but to put it in perspective, what the Supreme Court says about this issue, and I'm just going to quote from the 1964 seminal Supreme Court cases. It's kind of interesting. It says, local governments are not bound to keep silent in the face of a controversial vote that will have profound consequences for the community. Leaders have both a duty and a right to say which course of action they think best and to make fair use of their offices for this purpose. The people elect governmental leaders precisely for this purpose. Now, it goes on to explain that in the context of using public funds, you need to go through the additional processes. But if it is a commissioner advocating in a certain way, taking a stance, that is okay. Of course, that also, we have to be very careful about sunshine law issues in that context, and we need to avoid two commissioners publicly or having a conversation without having a notice meeting and so forth. But we do believe that there are some measures we could take that would not involve expenditure of public funds, such as putting something on our website, potentially submitting some kind of article or statement to the newspaper, and perhaps even putting together a flyer of some sort. So those are some things, if there's some interest, we can move forward on that. And then the second thing that I wanted to report on was with respect to the franchise discussions in GRU. I know that's come up in several of our meetings, particularly as of late. And basically, there's the gas franchise fee, where we do have a contract that's dated back in 2006 and is in place for a minimum of 25 years. So we're right in the middle of that contract. And then there's also the fiber optic franchise issue that's been raised, where we do not have a written contract that the city attorney is aware of. So what we're doing, I've asked, with the help of Jennifer, I've obtained some information in terms of what the city's revenues and collections are from the franchise fee under the gas contract. And going back roughly the last 2 years, the fees are a little over $2,000. However, what we are going to do is we are going to write a letter. If, I should preface that, if the commission instructs us to do this, we will go ahead, the city attorney will write a letter to GRU and reference our audit rights under the gas franchise agreement. And in that case, if we notify GRU that we would like to inspect records and so forth, we put them on notice. There's so many days that they have in order to get those books and records available to us. And I've spoken a little bit with Scott Walker about the issue, and he was expressing that his experience is that once you write that letter, typically you get a phone call from GRU saying, okay, what do you guys want? Let us package it together and just get it to you. And the purpose of that would be to just make sure that we are collecting everything that we should be collecting. That's on the gas franchise contract. And then on fiber optic, we have put a call into a lady by the name of Christine Dam at GRU. She was involved in this same or similar issue in Archer a year or two ago. So she's a little bit more up to speed on this from the fiber optic standpoint. And we've put a call into her just to basically start a conversation to inquire about whether she's aware of there being any right-of-way agreements in place, whether there is a franchise agreement that none of us know about as we're sitting here today. And there are some exemptions under state law that in certain instances, providers are exempt from being assessed any type of franchise fee by a municipality. We don't think that GRU fits in that description as we sit here today, but we want to open up that discussion with her and just find out if she would agree with that or disagree and why. So that's sort of where we are on the franchise issues. And we would just invite any comments from the commissioners on as far as their desires to move forward. And I will say, I've laid out a lot of information there. I would actually recommend that a couple of those issues, depending on what it is, that we actually have a motion made specifically directing the city attorney to further delve into those matters. Whether that's tonight or at another meeting.
Yeah, so Jen, when we have to put that on our agenda, as an agenda item in the future? You're on mute.
I could, do you want it on the October 8th agenda?
Commissioners? I'm fine with it.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes, sir.
Jameson?
Yes, sir. And Rich, you're going to bring the specific talking points to us, right, that we need to discuss.
Well, I'm assuming you'll remember everything I just told you, so.
I didn't remember the last thing when you gave us that one, whatever that thing was.
Yes, we'll bring it back. Basically the same report, any developments in the interim, so certainly.
Also, I don't know if it's possible, Jenny, is it possible for us to find out how many is using the gas, how many is using the fiber optic, how many potential customers there could be? Is there a way possible we can?
We can contact them to see if we can get that information.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to know who they're providing at this time. I know what fiber optic, I know the library and City Hall. I don't know. But we can get that information and then find out if it's possible for them to hook up to others. I guess the more customers they have, the more money they make, and the more we get a little small piece of it anyway. Small piece.
Mayor Williams, if you remember when Eric May did that presentation on the internet accessibility for businesses, he did mention that GRU had commercial and there were people in town connected. I think ThemeWorks was. So they are, I think they do have some other commercial accounts out here on the internet and the fiber optic that probably aren't being, you know, because there's no franchise thing in place.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Is that Rich? That's it?
That's all I have.
All righty. Thank you. Any other questions for Rich? All righty. City manager report and updates.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, just a few things. As previously mentioned in the last meeting, we want to schedule a meeting with Mid-Tower to talk about the capacity and the infrastructure for the future of High Springs. And tentatively, they're scheduled for October the 6th. And they're going to come and give a presentation, a workshop for commissioners to consider information about the capacity and where we are, where we need to be, and how we're going to get there. Also, I'll be out of the office Wednesday and Thursday of this week. I'll be available by phone if you need me. And last but not least, my mom gave me home training. It's Jennifer's birthday. I won't tell you how old she is, but we just want to wish her a happy birthday today and celebrate her and her birthday. That's it.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. How old are you?
Oh, Mayor, you don't ever ask that of a lady.
Careful,
When you sing it, you can do that. You and your
Especially when
singers.
it's a milestone birthday.
Yeah, when you Commissioner Nancy, if you're singing, you can do that.
You know what? It's the big 6-0.
And you ought to be proud of it. Yes, indeed.
Be proud
It's
of
the
every
new 40.
day.
Every
The
day.
city manager today told me that it's the new 40, so I'm good.
Hey, yes. Yes, indeed. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
That it, Mr. City Manager?
Yeah. Yes, sir, that's it.
Okay. Any question of the City Manager?
I have a question. Do we have a building official yet on staff?
Yes, ma'am. Allie Good came on the 14th, and apologize for that. We'll give you a chance to meet him. Maybe he'll come on a Zoom meeting and introduce himself.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the city manager? All right, hearing none. Commissioner Jameson, you have anything?
I'm good, sir.
All right. Commissioner Jones,
I'm good too.
you good too? Commissioner Lavin?
Yeah, I just want to say, I walk around the cemetery and I just want to say that I'm so impressed with how that gentleman keeps the cemetery. He mows it. I saw him out there this morning weed eating around every gravestone. And it just amazes me the care that he puts into taking care of that. So I just wanted to compliment.
She went blank on, are you done? That's it?
Yes, I started coughing. Sorry, I muted myself. Yes, sir. That's it. I just, they do such a good job. We are so blessed to have such good staff.
I agree, 100%. All right, Vice Mayor James?
Nothing at all.
No? Oh, well, I can't let y'all go like that. Just I don't know, a concern or whatever, but I know it's DOT Road 27, Antoine, but on that corner by Ace, on Railroad Avenue, if you're trying to cross over 27, going past, I'm finna say Western Auto, but it's not called Western Auto anymore.
Bennett,
Yeah, Bennett. I'm going back when I say Western Auto. Some probably know
Right.
what Western Auto is. But if you're trying to cross over from the Ace Hardware side on Railroad Avenue and trying to cross over to make the left on 27, I keep straight across the Railroad Avenue. There's a big blind spot. Traffic coming from on 27, especially when cars park right there in front of Ace Hardware. I mean, that traffic just blocked. You cannot see. There's a lady sitting there the other day. I know she sat there for at least 20 minutes because she was afraid to go out, actually, because she couldn't see around those cars. And I know it's DOT. Gillingham.
Mayor, that side road's ours. We could do a no left turn there if we wanted to and make them turn right. That would eliminate some of that problem. I know we can't do nothing with Main Street, but that side road's ours. So we could put a no left turn sign up there if you wanted to try to eliminate that some.
Something. I'm just afraid an accident gonna happen there. I mean, she sat there for a long while trying to get across.
We can take a look at it, and we can always have DOT look at it as well. We can submit things to DOT, and then I can get with the manager if we need to do anything else other than that.
Okay. I just kind of, maybe do we have a better relationship with DOT, Jenny?
A little bit.
A little bit. Remember the days we didn't have a good relationship with them.
Getting a little better.
Huh?
It's getting a little better.
Good. Good. Okay, that's all I have. Anyone else have anything? Seeing no one. All right, this time entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
All right, meeting adjourned. 7:26.